sketchy Texas Motor Speedway claimed numerous victims today. Chase Elliott was not one of them. He snaps a 42-race winless streak. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, on location, coming to you once again from a now mostly deserted Texas Motor Speedway. You might be able to hear they got sweepers and blowers going down the back straightaway. Beautiful weather today. It was a beautiful crowd, I thought, as well, for today's Echo Park Automotive Texas Grand Prix 400, whatever this race was called. These race names, man, can we keep it concise? Cookout 400 last week. That was perfect. Rolls off the tongue. No, anyway, we've got a lot to get to. We'll get to the treacherous bumps in turns 3 and 4, the slippery, sketchy turns 1 and 2 in a bit. We'll also hear from some of the top finishers, but I want to begin this video by talking Chase Elliott. I know it's been 42 races since Chase Elliott's last victory, but this win didn't come out of nowhere. Even last season, I know Chase Elliott went winless, missed some time due to injury, but he still had one of the best average finishes in the field. He was still running top 10 almost every week, he just wasn't leading laps. Obviously wasn't winning races, didn't look like the championship contender we've come to expect. But he was still good, and he fired off good this year. But if you've been paying close attention the last few weeks, he's been on an upward trajectory. The last few weeks have been building towards this moment. Go back about a month. Bristol finished 8th, really solid. The next week at Coda, had a top 5 car, got a penalty for cutting the course. What are you going to do? Followed that up with a top 5 finish at Richmond, and then he was 3rd last weekend at Martinsville. He could have very well won that race. He was right there with all of his teammates at the end. He's been building towards this moment. Sure, some circumstances fell his way this weekend. He was a nose out in front of Denny Hamlin when the caution flew late, allowed him to control the next few restarts. Yeah, he caught some breaks. Kyle Larson, having a wheel fall off the car and dragging the rear diffuser for a mile and a half, damaged his car for sure, took one of the top contenders out. He had some breaks. Every driver needs breaks if they're going to win a NASCAR Cup Series race. That's how this deal works. I've never really bought into the narrative that some fans, and I shouldn't even say fans, I feel like some of these folks are trolls, but some people I think actually come from a genuine place, this narrative that Chase Elliott's heart's not really in it. How bad does he really want this? I've never really subscribed to that theory or that narrative in any way, shape, or form. Chase Elliott is locked in. He won't do the Netflix show. He's not on social media. He won't do hardly anything off the track because his focus is 100% on track. I shouldn't say 100%. 1 or 2% is on flying, skiing, a few other things. But he's a professional athlete. This is his passion. I believe that. I've always believed that. Things have just been off. The best drivers are off for stretches here and there. We'll talk about in a moment. Brad Keselowski's on a 106 race winless streak. Kyle Busch, RCR, they've struggled the past few months going back to the end of last season. Stars go through stretches like that. And again, it's important to remember Chase Elliott wasn't bad last year. Chase Elliott's average finish last year was like 13.1. That's really good. Chase Elliott's a great driver. He's back in victory lane this weekend. This could easily be the first of several wins this year. There are a lot of great drivers at Hendrick Motorsports, a lot of mouths to feed, so to speak. William Byron's got 3 wins on the year. Larson's got a win and had maybe the fastest car here today, won the pole. Good to see Chase Elliott back in victory lane. Cool to see the Hooters colors in victory lane. The first time Hooters has won a NASCAR Cup Series race as a primary sponsor since Alan Kulwicki in 1992. And Chase Elliott, racing historian, raised well by his dad, acknowledged that on the front straightaway afterwards, did his own sort of version of a Polish victory lap. Huge respect for that. That's pretty cool stuff from Chase Elliott, who's still like a young driver. To pay respect to the history of the sport, how much that meant to him was pretty cool to see. I'm sure a lot of fans appreciated that. So many incidents today. It would take all night to go through and unpack every single one. Before I get off Chase Elliott, though, shout out to this epic 3-wide move he made on the restart. That was awesome. That was great. Let's take a look at some of the top finishers here. Brad Keselowski finishes 2nd. He had fresher tires than some of the leaders there towards the end, seemed to be charging. If this race had gone out green the last 15 or 20 laps, maybe Brad could have snapped his own 106 race winless streak. Instead, he had to watch Chase Elliott snap his winless streak. You could tell Brad Keselowski was a little deflated after the race, despite the solid top 5 effort.
It just kind of shows that we have good spirit and that the culture is good because we're putting ourselves in position. We're not as fast as we want to be, and it's really frustrating to not have that speed. But that doesn't mean we're giving up. And this was a great example of that. We were a 15th place car most of the day, maybe a little worse than that. And we just kept putting ourselves in position and racing hard and racing smart and making good calls on pit road, executing on pit road. we were able to put ourselves, in a top 5 and maybe a top 2 or 3 finish out of it. So I'm really proud of that.
William Byron has scored third. We will talk about that incident on the final lap. Looked to me like Byron just lost grip, slid up into Ross Chastain, exiting turn 2. Ross Chastain, for what it's worth, politely declined to comment after the race, at least according to reporter Jeff Gluck. William Byron did comment after the race. He gave his perspective of that last lap incident here.
I don't want to do that to anyone, but I was just far enough inside that I was there, and I had a run, and it's the last lap. But we always race really well, and so I don't want to do that to him, but unfortunately this kind of came together there, and nothing you can really do about that. That's just racing. I had a run, and I was there, and it happened.
Ross Chastain, at the very least, likely should have finished third tonight. Instead, at least if these results I'm looking at are official, he scored 32nd. Yeah, I'd be pissed off too. Just a mistake by William Byron. We saw tons of drivers make mistakes or get sideways in turns 1 and 2, but a costly one, especially for the one car. Shout out to Tyler Reddick. I expect him to be good today. He was good at Las Vegas. He was good on the long run in practice on Saturday. He wasn't quite as dominant as I thought he might be, but he was certainly very fast towards the end of this race. He opened up a 6-second lead during a long green flag run in stage 3. Lost that entire lead because of a bad pit stop. What else is new? Isn't it Reddick who said a few weeks ago, same stuff, different year? Yeah, no lead is safe if you have a 2311 pit crew. I'm sorry, it's harsh, but it's the honest truth. His car was so good, though, he was able to pass Hamlin back for the lead on track just a few laps later. Fox missed it, or it took him 5 laps to finally show it, but that did happen. Got wide on a late race restart. He comes home 4th. Still a really good result for Tyler Reddick, but man, he's been so close to that first win a few times this year. It hurts to not get it. And Daniel Suarez, his teammate may have finished 32nd, but Daniel Suarez gets a top 5. I want to give Chase Briscoe a ton of credit. He comes home 6th, and he collected 12 stage points today, which I think was second most in the series. Blaney, I know, collected 13 stage points, but Briscoe, they played the tire strategy well. He had speed, good finishing result, good points day all around for Chase Briscoe. That's huge. Another solid run at Texas Motor Speedway for Bubba Wallace. Both RCR drivers get top 10s. I don't know how that happened. I'll have to go back and rewatch this race because I looked up, I swear, around halfway and they were both outside the top 25. So tire strategy, I guess, good adjustments. Shoot, for Kyle Busch especially, after crashing the primary just a few laps into practice, to get a top 10 when it's all said and done is a huge recovery. Maybe the shot in the arm this team needs, because RCR, man, they've just been digging themselves a hole in recent weeks, it feels like. And Carson Hocevar gets himself a top 10 finish, much needed for the rookie. I spoke to him on pit road after the race about what this means for himself as well as Spire Motorsports. I know Corey LaJoie and Zane Smith didn't get great results, but Zane ran top 5 for a good portion of the day. Good speed from Spire. I asked Carson Hocevar about that.
We have a shop bonus, average of 20th, and a lot of other criteria. We got in the first 5 races, and we're on the next 5, and it's just big to put money in their pocket when we run well. There's a huge bonus program, and obviously they win on trucks, and they get some money in their pocket too. That's big, but more than anything, just our mile-and-a-half package, I think, is where we can hang the most, but also we need to qualify really well, especially a place like this where it's just really hard to pass. So short track's working on it. Obviously, super speedways. Spire's good. I don't feel as good, but mile-and-a-halfs, I feel like we're all 3 feeling pretty comfortable.
Again, a ton of incidents today. You don't see Denny Hamlin pictured here because he crashed while racing Chase Elliott for the race lead in the final stretch. Those bumps in turns 3 and 4 were sketchy. Everyone knew about him. Michael McDowell wrecked racing for the lead over those bumps and afterwards said that, hey, don't blame the track for this wreck. We know those bumps are there. Hamlin got on the bumps, was racing really hard, trying to stay on Elliott's right rear, and it just didn't stick. Eventually broke traction. There's really almost no way to save it here at Texas Motor Speedway. So a tough break there for Denny. I briefly mentioned that Kyle Larson loose wheel incident. Yeah, that completely changed the complexion of this race because Larson looked like the dominant car. He won stage 1 from the pole, looked like stage 1 at Martinsville a week ago, but lost the lead and lost 2 laps when his right rear rolled off the car under caution. It's a 2-race suspension, I believe, for tire changer. Jackman, is the crew chief involved now? I actually don't remember. They've changed the rule a couple times since the next gen was introduced. But to come from 2 laps down, get back on the lead lap, he raced his way back up to around 15th, but I think dragging the rear diffuser on the track for basically an entire lap caused some damage. That car never quite looked the same. I know he was back in traffic. Maybe it was just dirty air, but considering Elliott won, Byron was top 5 at the end, Bowman crashed before we ever really got a chance to see what he had. Considering Hendrick likely brought him a better than 20th place car, Larson finishing 22nd was likely the result of that loose wheel. Larson has one of the best pit crews in the garage, for sure. Today they unfortunately cost him. Just a honest mistake. But that changed the complexion of this race. When Larson went 2 laps down, it felt like, oh my gosh, the best car's out of it. Anyone can win this thing. Hamlin, Reddick, Chase Elliott, numerous drivers led laps today. The parity was on full display. Tires didn't wear out too much, so a lot of drivers would opt for 2 tires or could stay out and hold track position pretty well, which doesn't always lead to the best racing, but it did shuffle the field up quite a bit, so it kind of kept things fresh, at least from a TV viewing perspective. Just a couple other finishers I'd like to shout out that aren't pictured here. Jimmy Johnson comes home 29th. That's not very exciting. 7-time champion. He's won at this track 7 times. Who cares about a 29th place finish? Well, this was Jimmy Johnson's first lead lap finish in the next gen era. I think he was 0 for 5, 0 for 6 before this, so hey, it's the small victories. I'm not taking a shot at Jimmy. The dude won 7 championships, 83 races. He can handle some lighthearted goofing. I'm genuinely happy for him. I'm glad he was able to complete the laps today. He was the first caution of the day, just a lazy spin, but came back from that, stayed on the lead lap. Well done. That's what you expect. He's a 48-year-old driver who does not race these cars regularly. The next gen is so different from the previous generation of cars. Like he's a fish out of water, quite honestly. So, well done, Jimmy. Like I respect what he did this weekend. And I also want to shout out Ty Dillon, part-time for Kaulig, gets a 16th place finish. That's not bad at all. But those were some of your top finishers. Let's just talk about Texas Motor Speedway for a moment. A ton of incidents today. Yeah, I think even Michael McDowell admitted after he said don't blame the track that, hey, we could grind some of those bumps in turns 3 and 4. There are things that could continue to be done to this track to improve the racing. The groove has not widened much over the years since the repave and reconfiguration. They didn't add any resin or PJ1 this time around, but some of that stuff is still left. There's a residue still left on the track in those upper grooves that eventually sort of comes in. I remember drivers talked about that after I think the truck race on Friday. As a result, the conditions are just so sketchy. It leads to a lot of action. This race was edge of your seat in some ways because, we saw guys crash racing for the lead on more than one occasion. Like, that's dramatic. To go from hero to zero, just like that, that keeps you watching. That keeps you engaged. The whole race could change in a moment. You got the leader losing a wheel on pit road. Anything can happen. That's one way to look at Texas Motor Speedway. That's the glass half full way to look at Texas Motor Speedway. And granted, that's how I look at Texas Motor Speedway because this is my home track. I grew up coming to this. There's a helicopter overhead. My gosh, the aliens are coming for me. Thought he was going to send a ladder down to pick me up for a moment. Got really close. What was I saying? Yes, this is my home track, so I must admit I'm biased at least a little when it comes to talking about it. Saw my first race here. Been to this track more than I've been to any other track. Now that I live up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's really my home track. I'm like 40 minutes away. It's so great having this venue in my backyard. I have a sense of state pride, local track pride. So the glass half full way of looking at Texas is this race was action-packed. It really was. Unpredictable, as many like to say. It was fun. It was quintessential modern NASCAR in that respect. You even got a couple of overtime finishes as like the icing on the cake. Like, I feel like the race today is exactly what NASCAR executives want to see. Bunch of different leaders, cars for the most part close together, lots of restarts in quick succession, overtime, all or nothing, Denny Hamlin wrecking for the lead, going for it. That's what NASCAR wants to see, and if they get it, they're going to turn a blind eye. They aren't going to care if the track is kind of, sort of, a little bit broken. That's the glass half empty way of looking at this. This Texas Motor Speedway is so sketchy. I keep using that word. I feel like there is no better word. I played this clip yesterday, but Kyle Busch, who did rebound to finish top 10 today, yesterday said the track is just not aging the way it should.
I don't know who does the tire testing or if they make comments to Goodyear and Goodyear doesn't listen, but like last night we were on hockey pucks. It was just super treacherous. And then obviously again today for me, apparently, it's super treacherous. So the track isn't really aging where it deteriorates like Atlanta did, and it gets to where it's slippery that way. It's just it's lighter in color and it has less grip than a repave, but it's when you lose the grip, it's gone. You crash.
I don't know what they're going to do to it at this point. Do I want them to turn this place into another Atlanta super speedway? Not really. Quite honestly, I think I'd rather them just, put 24 degrees of banking back into turns 1 and 2. They might have to do some sort of repave or something to turns 3 and 4, again, to eliminate some of those bumps. There's character, and then there's treacherous. I think today, track bordered on treacherous. So, when you're going 180, 190 miles an hour, I mean, again, Alex Bowman suffered a concussion here 2 years ago. Like, this track is dangerous. You can't have sketchy bumps taking people out every 10 laps. Obviously, Dallas-Fort Worth needs a race on the schedule. This is a huge growing market. Lots of sports fans, lots of race fans here, as we saw today. But what do they do to this venue? I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. I think keeping it exactly the way it is now and coming back here in a year probably isn't the right course of action. If it's just grinding those bumps in 3 and 4, maybe that's it. Maybe that's enough. There's two ways to look at this. Again, glass half full, glass half empty. I typically lean glass half full just because this is my home track, and again, I'm admittedly biased. Let's put this race on the groovy gauge, brought to you by Electric E-Bikes. Head to electricebikes.com to learn even more. The weather's warming up. Good chance to get outside, ride your bike, go electric. Check out electricebikes.com. Objectively, I feel like this race should be like a 55, maybe a 60, somewhere kind of in the middle, maybe leans positive, because while a lot of folks will applaud the chaos and unpredictability, in some ways I think this track crossed that line to the point where drivers were afraid to go 2 or 3 wide on restarts. That's not great, but I'm going to give this race, we'll go with a 66%. Route 66 comes through Texas, right? I was trying to think of like a tie-in. Where's the 66 come from? Yeah. In honor of Route 66, which I think goes through like the panhandle of Texas, which really isn't that close to here. In honor of Route 66, we'll go 66% on the groovy gauge. Again, I'm more of a glass half full kind of guy. This is my groovy gauge. My score goes. Lots of great storylines, lots of whoa moments, but I do think they should make some changes to this track going forward. Like I just said, it's too high speed. It's too dangerous, honestly, to keep racing here with so many slick, sketchy conditions or characteristics. So that's what I'm going to say. I enjoyed today's race for the most part. Thought it was an above average race, but I'm not sure I'd want to see a race exactly like it ever again. We damn near hit the track record for cautions today, and this race was 100 miles shorter than most Texas races in years past. So yeah, when you cross that line, cross that threshold just a bit. I didn't hate today's race though. It was better than the last 2 short track races in my opinion. 66% for Texas Motor Speedway. Let me know if you agree, disagree, if you'd modify that score a bit down in the description below. Comment section below. You guys don't leave things in the description. That's my job. Yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. As you can tell, the sun has gone down quite a bit. I've been out here a while. Busy weekend here at Texas Motor Speedway, but always great to be at my home track. I hope you guys enjoyed the race today. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more NASCAR content day in, day out, all year long. I will be back home at my studio this week. Got lots more to talk about, I'm sure, heading into is it Talladega on deck? Is that right? I'm so bad about keeping up with the schedule, honestly. I just take things one weekend at a time. Yeah, I believe Talladega is next weekend, so that'll be exciting. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks. Have a great start to your week. I will see you again very, very soon. Take care, y'all.